seemingly justify and perhaps delay the revelation of all of the lies that she had told the royal.
I could only think, when I was trying to appropriately name it, it was a flopumentary.
I met a great man, and he's really interesting, and I want to get to know him more. I met a prince.
Samantha, I have to say this was one of the most nauseating, horrible things I've ever had to listen to. Those weren't the words of a tabloid journalist. They came from Meghan Markle's own sister. And what she's referring to might be the most surprising revelation in recent royal history. What if I told you that before Meghan ever stepped into Hollywood, before she ever met Prince Harry, there was an entire chapter of her life that mysteriously disappeared? We're talking about a missing year with no photos, no records.
A scandal nobody saw coming. What if the headlines you've been scrolling through missed the juiciest, most explosive?
No proof of the travel story she's always claimed. But according to family insiders, that gap year wasn't about self-discovery at all. It was about hiding something much bigger. A secret marriage, sealed court documents, and claims that could rewrite everything you thought you knew about the Duchess of Sussex. This isn't speculation. These are claims backed by family members who say they witnessed it firsthand. If stories like this fascinate you and you want to see more hidden truths that mainstream media won't cover, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe with notifications on. Because next week, we're diving into another celebrity secret that's even more mind-blowing than this one. You definitely won't want to miss it.
Here's what nobody ever tells you about Meghan Markle. Not the magazines, not the documentaries, not even the endless...
Now let's uncover what really happened during Meghan's mysterious missing year. In June 1994, Meghan Markle walked across the stage at Immaculate Heart High School in Los Angeles. Her classmates were buzzing about college plans, summer adventures, and the next big step in their lives. For most teenagers, this would be the beginning of a well-documented journey into adulthood. But Meghan's story takes an interesting turn right from the start. Her official biography describes a simple picture. She took a gap year before enrolling at Northwestern University in fall 1995.
Have you ever seen that video?
No.
Pull that video up, because it's one of my favorites.
Many people doubt Meghan has long been a mother, following her attendance at...
She mentioned it as a year of travel, self-discovery, and freedom before diving into college life. But here's where things get interesting. When you look for evidence of this gap year, very little can be found. Think about it. In the 1990s, gap years were becoming increasingly popular, especially for students from schools like Immaculate Heart. There should be photos, documentation, some kind of record. Yet when you search for details about Meghan's supposed year of adventure, information becomes scarce. No photos from exchange programs.
For years, Meghan Markle's life has been painted as polished. A straight path from high school to Hollywood, from actress to...
No records of host families or overseas study. No classmates who remember her discussing travel plans. No friends who recall her adventures abroad. No family stories shared at reunions. Just a notable absence of information. A 12-month period in her life that remains largely undocumented. And this timeline gap has caught the attention of family members. According to Samantha Markle, Meghan's estranged sister who has spoken publicly about family history,
can't believe Meghan Markle's 27-year-old daughter resurfaces, claiming Meghan abandoned her to her father.
That missing year may tell a different story entirely. Samantha suggests that year involved important personal matters that remained private. She claims it included a relationship, major personal decisions, and circumstances that were kept out of the public eye. That year of supposed self-discovery may have actually involved life-changing events that were carefully kept private before Meghan ever stepped foot on Northwestern's campus.
Samantha Markle leaks Meghan's 21-year-old daughter's birth certificate as proof. A shocking revelation has sent shockwaves.
What makes this particularly intriguing isn't just what may have happened during those 12 months. It's how thoroughly any documentation seems to be missing leaving behind only family accounts and questions about a timeline that remains largely unexplained. The summer of 1994 should have been pure freedom for Meghan. Beach trips, college prep, maybe some acting auditions to chase those Hollywood dreams. But here's where her story takes an unexpected turn. Instead of the typical post-grad adventure, family insiders say she ended up somewhere completely different.
Meghan Markle's half-sister definitely isn't half-hearted in her recent takedown of Meg's mom.
Las Vegas. And notably, she wasn't there for the typical tourist experience. Picture this. An 18-year-old fresh out of high school visiting one of those quiet little chapels tucked away from the main strip. No paparazzi, no social media posts, just what family sources describe as a private gathering. According to the Giuliano family accounts, Meghan may have participated in a ceremony with Joe Giuliano, a guy with serious Chicago family ties. Two relatives were reportedly present for what they describe
as most of you have heard the rumor that Meghan Markle has married not 2 but 3 times. Before Prince Harry and her divorce.
As quick and simple. Under 30 minutes. And completely away from public attention. Now, here's what makes this whole situation even more interesting. Joe Giuliano wasn't some Hollywood wannabe like most people in Meghan's circle. This guy came from old-school Italian-American background in Chicago, the kind of family where tradition isn't just respected, it's everything.
September 9th was supposed to be just another day in court, but by the time the gavel dropped, Meghan Markle's image as a woman in control.
Privacy, loyalty, keeping family business private, that's how the Giulianos operated. They weren't chasing fame or publicity. They were all about building something meaningful and keeping it protected. For them, getting married young wasn't some unusual decision. It was normal, even expected in their community. Start your family early, stay committed, protect what's yours. Classic Giuliano values. But the potential for conflict becomes apparent when you consider how those rock-solid traditional values
very clear to me at the time that, we were together, I would say. Yeah, she had a very clear idea of
would eventually come into tension with Meghan's growing ambition for the spotlight. So just a few months after that quiet Vegas chapel visit, Meghan's world took an unexpected turn. Picture this, she's barely 18, fresh out of high school, and suddenly facing news that would change everything. We're talking about a situation that would make any teenager's head spin. But for Meghan, the timing was particularly challenging. Here's the thing, she had it all mapped out.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for over a decade, and that was only for a day and a half, suddenly it felt like she was.
Northwestern University, acting classes, the whole Hollywood dream timeline. But life had other plans. According to people who knew the Giuliano family well, this wasn't just about two young people dealing with unexpected news. This was like watching two completely different worlds try to figure out the same difficult situation. The Giulianos, they're old school through and through. To them, family expansions are blessings, something you embrace and work through together. But Meghan was looking at the possibility of watching everything she'd worked for potentially change.
What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle was just the tip of the iceberg? Behind the glamour,
college plans, acting dreams, that independence she'd always craved. Suddenly, it all felt uncertain. And here's where things get really interesting. The pressure wasn't coming from screaming matches or family drama. It was building quietly, behind closed doors, as everyone tried to figure out what would happen next. The Giuliano family reportedly saw this as just another chapter in family life. But for Meghan, who had never planned on early motherhood, this felt like her entire future was being rewritten in ways she hadn't anticipated.
In Chicago, quiet, low profile, and very much living under their roof. And what happened during that missing year? That's where the whispers turn explosive.
By mid-1995, right in the middle of what everyone thought was her gap year adventure, family insiders claimed the baby arrived. A little girl. But instead of Meghan stepping into mom mode, something unusual reportedly occurred. The Giuliano family reportedly made an offer that seemed to address everyone's concerns. They'd raise this little girl as their own. No official paperwork, no legal connections, no paper trail that could ever link Meghan Markle to this child.
Buckingham Palace has endured scandals, abdications, and affairs, but nothing like this.
And the most intriguing part? Family members reportedly had their own way of discussing the situation within family circles. The kind of quiet acknowledgments that happen in tight-knit families, the ones that reveal way more than any official statement ever could. Okay, so here's where things become more calculated. When Meghan's alleged Vegas marriage needed to end, it didn't go down like you'd expect. No messy breakups, no courtroom drama, no lawyers throwing papers around.
Meghan Markle faces shocking allegations. Secret daughter emerges with damning evidence. A 27-year-old woman has come forward.
Instead, it was handled through an annulment, but not just any annulment. Here's what makes this so noteworthy. Most Vegas marriages that don't work out, the annulment paperwork just becomes part of the regular public record pile. You know, like thousands of other young decisions that didn't work out that happen every year. Anyone can usually look them up later and move on with life. But Meghan's situation? Completely different story. According to family sources, those annulment documents got special treatment.
From those close to the situation, Samantha was never content to stay silent forever. Instead, she was patient, waiting for the moment to challenge the world.
Sealed up tight almost immediately. We're not talking about normal filing procedures here. We're talking about paperwork that suddenly became off limits to everyone. And that raises a pretty obvious question, right? Why would a simple teenage marriage mistake need high-level document privacy? But here's where it gets really interesting. Family insiders suggest there was way more happening behind the scenes than just legal paperwork. This was reportedly about working out an arrangement that would address everyone's concerns effectively.
Trevor Ingleson finally speaks, reveals Meghan abandoned 21-year secret daughter with father Thomas Markle.
Meghan gets her do-over, college, acting dreams, the whole Hollywood trajectory back on track. The Giuliano family takes care of the child's situation. Everyone gets what they need. Except there was apparently one condition that was reportedly non-negotiable. Total discretion about everything. No family reunions, no checking in, no, hey, how's everyone doing, phone calls. According to these accounts, the connection between Meghan Markle and this little girl had to be kept entirely private.
And her before?
No, we were kind of puzzled when both sides of the family were kept away from.
And here's the part that really shows you how thorough this whole arrangement was. Once Meghan walked away, she was apparently gone for good. No contact with the Giuliano family, no visits, no curiosity about how things were going. Family sources say that for Meghan, this wasn't just about fixing a legal mistake. This was about getting a complete fresh start and walking into her Northwestern life like none of it ever happened. So, while Meghan's busy reinventing herself at Northwestern, making new friends, hitting up acting classes, basically living her best college life,
This might be the biggest royal bombshell you'll ever hear, and it's coming straight from Meghan Markle's ex-husband. Trevor Engel.
There's this whole other story playing out in Chicago that nobody's talking about. The little girl who was allegedly born in 1995, she's just growing up like any other kid, going to school, hanging out with family, doing normal Chicago things. But here's what's so noteworthy about this arrangement. This kid isn't being kept in isolation or anything dramatic like that. She's literally living her life right out in the open. Family barbecues, neighborhood events, the whole 9 yards. Yet according to family insiders, everything about her background was managed so carefully.
The truth about Meghan Markle's past is about to get a whole lot messier. Imagine this. Years of
that most people had no clue about any potential connections to anyone famous. And get this, the way this was managed was quite methodical. Her name allegedly never showed up in school records that might raise questions. When family friends met her, she was just introduced as part of the family. You know, no complicated explanations, no unusual stories, just simple introductions. On every piece of official paperwork, she was a Giuliano, period, clean and simple.
I would sum her up as not very good. She shouldn't be a mother, or should not.
But here's where it gets interesting. People who spent time around her over the years, they started noticing things. Family sources say there were certain physical traits that caught people's attention, but nobody really talked about it openly. It was more like those quiet family observations that happen when someone walks into a room and you think, she reminds me of someone. Fast forward to today, and we're talking about a woman who's almost 30 now. She's got her own job, her own relationships, her own life in Chicago.
I love her, she's my sister, but humanitarians and diplomats don't behave like this.
Meghan Markle's half-sister, Samantha.
From the outside, everything looks totally normal, just another person living their life in the Midwest. But family sources say that even now, people occasionally notice certain features or mannerisms that make them pause and wonder. And here's the most significant aspect. According to family insiders, she might not even know the full story herself. Think about that for a second. For almost 30 years, she's been living under an arrangement that was made when she was just a baby. She's got her own identity, her own life, her own relationships.
What if I told you Archie was never actually born, and the baby we saw was just a doll? In a bombshell revelation that
but potentially no idea about this major situation that's supposedly connected to her existence. Which brings up this really important question. What happens if she ever gets curious about her family history? What if she decides to dig into her background or ask questions that the family's never had to answer before? Because while Meghan's out there building this perfect public story from college to Hollywood to royalty, there could be someone living in Chicago whose very existence might significantly change that story.
Meghan Markle's roar. Joe Giuliano's shocking revelation about a secret daughter born in 1990.
Okay, so let's talk about why this whole alleged situation isn't just some old family disagreement. We're talking about potentially significant information that could substantially impact everything Meghan's built over the past decade. I mean, think about it. Her entire public story has been this perfect progression, right? Student goes to college, becomes an actress, meets a prince, becomes a duchess. But if her family's telling the truth, there's this important missing piece that completely changes the whole narrative. And here's where things get really interesting.
What if one of the world's most famous women admitted to something so personal, so startling, that it left even her...
From a royal perspective, the British royal family doesn't just let anyone join their family circle. These people do serious homework, background checks, family investigations, the whole process. They want to know everything about who they're bringing into the fold because, let's be honest, surprises are the last thing the monarchy needs. So if there really was a previous marriage, a child, and sealed court documents floating around out there, that represents a significant...
Meghan Markle's shocking court revelation. The untold story of a 21-year-old secret daughter. In a
oversight in their vetting process. Samantha Markle has been speaking publicly about this for years now, basically saying that Meghan provided the royals with a selective version of her life story. According to Samantha, the royal family got the simplified version, while the real story stayed private in Chicago. And you know what? That's either a significant family disagreement or an oversight in the process. Either way, it's not ideal for anyone involved. But here's what makes this whole thing potentially significant in 2025.
For years, Meghan Markle's life has been portrayed as a perfect journey. From high school to the...
We're living in the age of DNA testing websites and online genealogy discoveries. Information that stayed private for decades is getting revealed because curious people decide to research their backgrounds or dig through available records. The same technology that's reuniting families could theoretically bring this situation to light. And let's not forget about the woman in Chicago who's allegedly at the center of all this. She's almost 30 now, probably using social media like everyone else.
It started like a whisper, but now it's turned into a full-blown legal earthquake. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, is
maybe getting curious about her family tree. What happens when she decides to do one of those DNA tests out of curiosity? What happens if she starts connecting information that leads her toward the most famous family situation in the world? Because here's what makes this particularly concerning. If any of this ever gets verified, it's not just Meghan who faces consequences. We're talking about questions regarding the credibility of the entire royal institution. How do you explain to the world that something this important was missed? How do you maintain trust when your verification process apparently had significant gaps?
This time, the royal drama isn't playing out in the tabloids, it's unfolding in a courtroom, and the evidence could change.
This isn't just family disagreement anymore. This is potential institutional credibility territory. And that's what makes this alleged secret so much more significant than just another celebrity situation. So here we are, almost 30 years later, and these questions just keep popping up like that one friend who keeps bringing up old situations. If this whole thing really was just some teenage situation that got handled, why are those annulment papers still securely sealed? If there was never actually a kid in the picture,
I do believe now that my brother is telling the truth and that Trevor.
why would the Giuliano family allegedly spend 3 decades raising someone while keeping quiet about any Meghan connections? And here's the million-dollar question. What happens when this whole carefully maintained silence finally starts to change? Because let's be real about how these things work. You can seal documents and make all the family agreements you want, but secrets this big? They have a way of finding the light eventually. Maybe it's someone getting curious about their DNA results.
Yeah, so Meghan Markle's half-sister, who is, I believe, 16 years older than her,
Maybe it's a family member who finally decides they're done keeping quiet. Or maybe it's just how our highly connected world works. Private stuff becomes public whether you want it to or not. And look, we're not talking about some random online theory here. These allegations are coming from family members who claim they were literally in the room when this stuff went down. Samantha isn't some random person with a personal agenda. She's Meghan's actual sister, saying she knows things firsthand. The Giulianos aren't chasing their 15 minutes of fame.
Samantha Markle has issued a second legal challenge against her half-sister, Meghan Markle. Samantha has appealed the dismissal of her.
They're supposedly the ones who've been dealing with the aftermath of this situation for 30 long years. Here's what makes this whole thing so compelling, though. When you start connecting the dots, everything seems to line up a little too perfectly. The gap year nobody can verify. Check legal documents that mysteriously can't be accessed. Check family members sticking to the same story for decades. Check a woman in Chicago whose very existence supposedly ties all this together.
They did is they conducted a search with finding if a Rachel Meghan Markle.
Double check. At some point, you stop calling it coincidence and start wondering if there's something bigger going on. But what really gets me thinking is how this contrasts with Meghan's public story. She's built this amazing narrative about transformation, about pulling herself up and creating this incredible life from normal beginnings. People look up to her as this symbol of reinvention and making it against the odds. But if her family's telling the truth, that inspiring story might actually be more about selective sharing of experiences and focusing on certain chapters while keeping others private.
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is marking her daughter Lilibeth's 4th birthday by sharing some personal photographs.
And that brings us to an important consideration. We're living in this age where everyone values being authentic, right? So what happens when someone's entire public brand might be built on keeping major parts of their actual story completely private? Because if any of this ever comes out and gets confirmed, it's not just going to change how we see Meghan. It's going to make us question every carefully crafted celebrity story we've ever believed. All right, so let's take a step back and really think about what we've just...
As you know, I've received many emails from the California State Department of Birth Records.
...walked through together. We started with this one simple question about why nobody can prove Meghan's gap year actually happened. And somehow, we've ended up exploring this complex situation involving alleged Vegas weddings, claims about a hidden kid, mysteriously sealed paperwork, and a Chicago family who've apparently kept quiet for 30 years. Look, whether you're considering these family claims or you think it's all just family disagreements,
Relationship with Meghan.
A diary, a tell-all book. The Diary of Princess Push's Sister.
The book includes details.
you've got to admit there are way too many noteworthy patterns here to dismiss this entirely. I mean, seriously, let's run through this checklist one more time. Gap year with zero proof it happened. Check legal documents that are supposedly locked away when they should be totally accessible. Check family members telling the exact same story for literal decades. Check a woman living in Chicago whose whole existence might bring significant attention to this. Double check. And the most notable aspect, absolutely nobody involved will talk about any of it. That's not just random bad luck, folks. That's the kind of coordinated silence that takes serious effort to maintain.
Ghastly, appalling, the kind of worst half-sister imaginable, somebody who clearly wants to be.
But here's what really interests me about this whole situation. This isn't just about Meghan Markle anymore. This is about how we're constantly getting fed these perfect, polished life stories from celebrities and public figures, when the reality might be way more complex than what we're seeing. That beautiful story about rising from regular actress to actual royalty, it might hit completely different when you factor in all the pages that allegedly got left out of the narrative.
Right. This isn't just another royal rumor. This one is layers of drama, scandal, and controversy.
And that brings me to the question that makes me particularly curious. If secrets this significant can stay private for 3 decades in our social media everything, everybody shares everything world, what other major revelations might be waiting to surface? How many of our favorite celebrities have these hidden chapters that would significantly change everything we think we know about them? Look, here's the honest truth. We might never get the complete answer about what happened during Meghan's mysterious missing year.
Not a princess, just a teenage girl walking through life with ambition burning in her chest and secrets tightening around.
But these questions aren't just going to disappear. And in our current world where one DNA test or family disclosure can become widely known overnight, private information has a way of eventually coming to light. So I'm really interested to know what you think about all this. Are we looking at some family disagreements here, or do you think there's actually something significant being kept private? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely read every single one. And your perspectives might be more insightful than mine. And hey, if diving into these kinds of celebrity mysteries interests you like it does me, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Next week, we're examining another celebrity situation that's going to make this situation seem minor by comparison. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss it.